Small companies have created workshops on the planet. Well, I mean, if you want a source of energy, I think that geothermal energy on this planet, or steam creation of steam should be pretty easy. Although actually, just getting the water heated, I'm imagining you'd have to import the water itself. So, there's a lot of energy on this planet with a lot of heat sources. Unrest Cure says, no water, no stream. The stream was too hot to present. So yes, it appears that today is one of those days where my internet service provider has generously allowed me only small bursts of functionality, which is quite unfortunate. But we'll be bouncing back and forth. I'll try to be monitoring the Slytherin chat. Let me know when I go down. I mean, I actually have the stream up. Oh my gosh, do I have it? Oh good, I have it muted. So I'll be trying to check to see when the stream stops functioning on my second monitor, but I'm so interested in this game and looking at everything here that I might miss that. So 12.3 million people have decided to live on this planet for whatever reason. Who knows why? There's workshops for whatever reason. A big corporation has opened a huge UCM drive facility. I forgot what UCM is. This is a line, an event I've seen many times. And then they've actually even built space yards here. Maybe they need lava forges or something. Who knows? So if we re-roll this, the events will change, the population will change, and the number of zones will... 50 million people, you gotta be out of your cotton picking mind. Who would live on this planet? What are services? What the heck? What services are they rendering here? I mean, I don't know. I mean, in the future, anything could happen. Let's live on this planet. I mean, not really. We're gonna re-roll this planet to begin with, but I just want to give an idea of planet creation, because I think this is one of the most interesting aspects of this game, is how incredibly detailed the planet creation is. So now, if we look at the screen, I mean, without reading what happened, we'll just look for ourselves and look at that. That is a lot of radiation symbols. What do I suspect happened? Well, we started off with 50 million people, and then the apocalypse hit. So this is the collapse of the Galactic Republic. I don't have a good example for this. I think Vic might have based this on some sci-fi lore, a specific sci-fi universe, but let's just think about the collapse of the Roman Republic or something, but with nukes involved. And I think that with that image, we can kind of gather that there's been some unrest, and people were not friendly towards one another. Out of the 50 million original people, we're down to 2 million, so, it's a 4% survival rate. Not, amazing, but it's 4%, so you got a chance in there. If it's RNG, I'm probably not going to survive, based on my luck with computers, but let's look at the history here. Major companies have evacuated their high-tech installations. Local reformist forces tried to storm the planetary senate. Neighboring systems start hamstering goods and liquid energy. I guess this liquid energy is actually the credits, I think, but seems like liquid energy is a little more imaginable on a lava world as well. The planetary government has ceased functioning. Warlords everywhere declare independence. So this is kind of the point where we enter into our own. We become a city-state. One of the surviving... We're not a warlord. We're, of course, a very democratic personage. But, yeah. Hamstering, yes, unrest cure. This is a new word. But I think you can understand the context. What hamsters do. They hoard. Hoarding probably would have been a better word, but... An internal struggle led to massive and extremely savage infighting in La Pella. So that is one. An unknown and extremely violent disease wiped out Pomonis, so that city's gone. And then an abandoned automated factory complex blows up in Retherar due to core overheating. So Retherar. One of these is Retherar. And it may not exist anymore. But that is probably the source of all this radiation. Or maybe it's just a radioactive planet to begin with. I mean, this is a lot of radiation. I'm starting to think that this may not all be just due to the apocalypse. So there it is. This is a planet that we've generated, and it doesn't look like a great one. Lava world full of radiation. What could possibly go wrong? There was oh yeah, thank you. So somebody Morbrug points out that in 8067 there was an exchange of atomic missiles. So this is what happened in the apocalypse, and we continue, and now it's our chance to start on this, which I will just do very briefly, and then we'll go back to a new game and quickly roll a planet that I think is more appropriate. But I really wanted to spend, my goal was 15 minutes, and with the stream delay getting started, we're at 20 already. So I've already spent a little bit more time than I wanted to, but well, I'm not going to worry about this because we'll go into this a little bit more for our actual planet. But what does it look like when we get into this planet? It's going to look like hell. No surprise, right? I'm just going to rifle through these. I just want to see the planet itself. And this is what the planet looks like if we start with the Fog of War, where we can actually still see the planet type. Note that we don't actually know the roads and the cities around us. So you can see that the roads, we don't have information beyond our line of sight. But this is one way of doing it. I'm going to restart now with a... boy, this is just looks like a terrible place to live. My first order of business would be to evacuate, get to a spaceship, and live somewhere else. But let's go back and let's roll a different planet now. And I think that maybe we should do something a little bit more habitable. Let's try a Medusa planet for this, because I think Siwa is very, very nice and interesting, but I don't know if I've ever done a full Siwa playthrough. And what I'm going to do is do complete Fog of War after colonization. So now this is going to be a little bit more like the fully shrouded 4X start. I'm going to keep all the other default start options. Again, I want to advise people, again, if you're playing for the first time, just play on beginner and you won't have any problems. It'll be a challenging start. You may even have to restart. It's not going to be easy. So, or if you choose a Siwa class, you may get lucky and things work out well, and then you just start a new game after you learn the ropes. But anyway, game variants disable at box. You can probably see that there's, or I'll show at least that I'll leave it on. There's these like eras that you go through where things could happen good, things can happen bad. It kind of spices things up a little bit. So yeah, I basically think this is a there's so many different knobs in this game that you can play with. The replayability is off the charts. That's why I really do think in 5-10 years we can look back on 2020 and say that we're still, the one thing we took away, hopefully, is some reform. But leaving that aside, and we're playing Shadow Empire. So, tilt 21 degrees. Wow, this is pretty close to the sun. Temperature's very temperate. 2 billion. This is hitting a lot of sweet spots. Tilt is about what Earth is, 20. So we're a little bit closer to the sun, significantly. An almost perfect orbit, so we're not elliptical. Let's just go ahead with this one. Sounds interesting to me. And this is exciting. This is just so cool. Every time I hit this continue button and I start seeing what my planet might look like. Okay, so this is 6% mountainous, 4% oceans, relatively flat planet, which I don't know, I kind of like this, okay? One thing I'd like to see is that mountain chains are not too wide, too thick, because that way it makes crossing them a little bit easier. This is a pretty tame landscape. A lot of marsh activity up here. I'm not a huge fan of that, but we'll see what happens. That'll probably become forest and stuff. The numbers we're seeing here is rainfall or water content of some kind. I think rainfall. So it's going to impact essentially where we see forest. So let's just take a look right here. We have very little rainfall. Can expect probably some kind of desert-ish environment over there, devoid of vegetation. And then we know something like over here we have a lot more. We probably expect something more like a marsh or heavy forested area. Let's go ahead and hit next and see if that's actually the case. And there it is. Let's go back down to the mini-map. So here we have... It's not... What terrain type is this? Unfortunately, I don't know. Oh, that's the water. Okay, the water is that color. So this is where we thought there might be more rainfall. We have some forest here. And by the way, note, I didn't show it in the last one, but the mountainous area over here was impacting the rainfall. So all the calculations are done in this really, really complex, interesting, crazy way, which I think is very cool. So what time today does this release on Steam? Yeah, so Shard says the Steam release isn't until later in the year, but it is already available on the Matrix store now. Hopefully there's a link somewhere, or even Shards, if you want to provide, if you can, provide a link to the game. I just won't be able to tab out and do it here. People will be able to click and you can buy this and play this right now. Right now, it's already out. I've been doing this preview stream for a while, and now finally the game is out and everyone can go enjoy it. or anybody else who has a moment to possibly post a link to the Slytherin or Matrix store game. Yeah, there. Thank you, Grognerd. Thank you, Shards. Thank you both. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. I mean, I don't really like the biosphere from the aspect that it is an insidious hazard to humans. There is xenobiological hazards, which I find fun. There's atmospheric farming hazards of none, and this is really interesting. This planet will allow open air farming, which is extremely interesting. Now, if I re-roll this, we may end up probably with Insidious at the top as well. Look, you can see that our planet type has, our vegetation has changed, and now we have, it looks like we do have a few volcanoes, a little bit of volcanic activity. Yeah, actually, this must have been a bit of a younger planet, maybe only 1 billion years old or so. So you can see, I think this was the area where we had a less rainfall. I can't remember exactly, but we have less forest, less vegetation here. Boy, I mean, this planet is going to be, in some sense, hell to live on, because forest is not easy to just walk through. I mean, it's your mobile units are going to have a hard time. We're going to need a lot of roads and stuff. So this is the same setup. We have 0 value for our alien tissues. Not a big deal. Shrubs and bush instead of more of the forest. So that's actually probably more shrubs and bush than not full cloud forest like I think the previous one. We even have the top evolution of life form. This is a land-dwelling, sizable carnivore. It resembles a jellyfish analog. That sounds terrifying for a land dweller. Its chemistry is water peroxide mixture carbon based, and it's oxygen breathing. Well, this oxygen level is actually pretty good. In fact, we could just, what would it require for us to get this maybe a little bit less sulfur in the air? Is it possible to get the an atmospheric human hazard down from Insidious? I don't know. But let's just go ahead and run with this one, because I am spending maybe a little bit too much time in plan generation. 30 minutes in was supposed to be when I'm, going to. I want to make sure, what was the biosphere like? Shrubs bush, good, yeah. I wanted to start the game at 30 minutes, so we're a little bit behind. But okay, so colonization. We can reroll this. Notice that I now no longer know anything about the planet. So I no longer know where the cities are. I only know the current population and the number of zones. So we don't see this because we're starting now in a 4X environment where we don't know what the distribution of cities is. And although this is not the apocalypse yet, the cities from the apocalypse are usually, they're drawn from the colonization period. So we could read through all of this to know a little bit more. A mining company shows interest in the planet. So is there mining? Yeah, 6% mining economy. So all of these things are factored into the current population, the mining economy. We'll just go with this one. Not going to make a difference. We can re-roll, but we won't see the results. The Unrest Cure says, I can see myself never actually playing the game, just creating planets. Yeah, I do that sometimes. When I'm about to start a playthrough, I just sit and generate plans for like an hour, and I realize like the time I can spend playing the game has already passed, and I didn't even start a game. But that's fun. It's just fun. Like, we have simulators for these kind of things, right? Like Universe Simulator and all that. Anyway, the apocalypse has hit, and lucky for us, a lot of people are farmers. This might actually be a good map to continue playing on, because a lot of farmers means less raiders, less scavengers, which are worse. They're worse friends, let's be honest. Farmers, a lot less dangerous than raiders. So we could look through the events. Out of nowhere, a giant unmanned spaceship crashed on Pomanian. Well, that sounds terrifying. An extremely deadly disease. This is, you know what? Enemies of Sotena have nuked it. Oh, there's somewhere on here we're going to have some radioactive waste to deal with. Or some radioactivity, really. A powerful Raider clan decided to set out an example and killed all their enemies in Mamania. What a mania. Anyway, let's get into the game. So we're working on our Lazaran planet. I forget the name of their planet. It said somewhere, I'm sure. But I don't remember where. Air pressure is about half Earth's. 0.65 million survivors in the Dissolution War. That's just really bad. Yeah. Anyway, let's see what this looks like. Let's start the game. Okay, so let's change our to the Tortugan regime. To the Tortuga democracy. To the Tortuga coalition. That's a pop-up you can't see, and it doesn't get captured by my... But I'm cluing it. It says, give them a name, so this is happening right here. President. We're not going to be president. We're going to be High Lord and Ruler. And color-wise, let's go with a primary color of... let's see, what are my channel colors? Some kind of yellow, and then unicolor, some kind of green. I like this blocked... I always like this one. I want people to get the idea that High Lord and Ruler Tortuga is very, very peaceful. So I like this skull. Yeah, I think this says it. Look at this is very democratic. It's not just one skull, it's three. They're all working together in this triumvirate of skull leadership. It just screams to me. This skull configuration screams of the people, by the people, for the people. So let's go with that. And let's see. Other survivors fleeing the destroyed cities had followed them. These others were aggressive and tried to enslave our forefathers. How did they manage to pacify their enemies? Well, we can say that our forefathers paid them a bribe, which will give us a more of a government swing. They fought them off, which is more of an enforcement swing. Or we can go with they found a strong ally beyond their zone who helped destroy them. You can approach this two different ways. You can start sculpting your government the way you want. I mean, your nation, your regime the way you want by just looking at the bonus it's going to provide. Or this game has so many opportunities for roleplay where you can decide, hey, I don't want them to have paid a bribe. That doesn't sound like what my people want to do. In which case, you'll find yourself falling more into one of the other two categories. Now, for me, I like the government side. Who wouldn't? I mean, the I should have been the Great Protector. Yeah, that would have been good. Anyways, it's just it's just the government has a really good bonus, and so I'm gonna run with that for now. The predecessor entity of our state managed to knit their people in a tight and coherent group. How did they manage to do this? Well, I mean, because this is during the Dissolution War, right? We're trying to figure out how our people survived. Like, what is the existing influence in our regime? It says right here, history of our people. So we can say that they swore sacred oaths of loyalty, they wrote a book of law and enforced it strongly, or they did many great deeds that inspired awe and loyalty. I almost always go with mind on this one. In fact, I really find that mind fits my playstyle much more than any of the other ones. Which I can't say about the first one. Government, commerce, and enforcement, they all have strong positives to it. So it's really a nice balance on that. For me, I always end up going with mine. And for this one, we have meritocracy, autocracy, or democracy. Well, obviously, with the three skulls, we got to be thinking about democracy as a possibility here. I think meritocracy fits my playstyle the best, but because we're such a democratic people, I'm going to go with meritocracy. That's right. 3 skulls. It's not 100 skulls here. It's 3. You know, it's a meritocratic. I don't know how to say the adverb, adjective, whatever, the adjective of that. It's a meritocratic society. So the previous High Lord and Ruler is now buried. Ashes, ashes, dust, dust is now up to you. Lead the state to victory. You are High Lord and Ruler of Tortuga Coalition. Some subjects cheer your ascension, but not all. You have to hail and address the state as soon as possible. And this is the epoch which you can choose to turn off. I think Das Tactic, for example, is not a huge fan of them. They usually swing one positive era, one negative era. We're starting with a positive one, which is going to give us private economy bonus points. They may not be too impactful right now, even because our private economy is going to be so small it won't have much to build off of. But we'll still, this is going to be a benefit. And then at the end of 13 turns, it'll switch to a new era, which is most likely going to be something negative. Now, there is a card-based dynamic in this game. So we're starting with some, when you see the sun, the star here, that's fate points. And I kind of think of those as like karma points. You can do certain actions. You get karma points over time, or I mean, I should just call them fate points. You can get fate points over time. One example is surviving an era. So the epoch we're in, it's going to last 13 turns. It's going to have some positive influence on our economy. And at the end of it, if we survive it, we gain a fate point. We can use those points to spend on these valuable cards. We are also given these red cards, which are essentially ways of buying yourself karma by having a huge negative karma, like a huge negative event happen to you. So paranoia is going to greatly increase fear in your cities, which, I mean, there's actually a use case for that. When you have too much arrest, the game is so interesting. The dynamics are so deep. If your city starts to have unrest, you can actually play the paranoia card to introduce fear, and fear combats unrest. So we can imagine this. I don't want to use real world examples, but if you had a highly authoritarian government and it was like the military was out patrolling the streets and just trying to avoid any kind of civil rights discussion, but heavily enforcing a curfew, let's say, it would introduce some amount of fear, and then this fear would decrease unrest, right? Because you can't really meet in the streets and protest if there's a military preventing you from leaving your house, or you could try and then it's basically a riot at that point. Oh man, it's really hard to talk about this game without feeling like I'm talking about current events. I'm not trying to. It's really just describing this game. And I think that's one of the merits of this game. One of the really amazing parts of this is that it does such a good job of bringing in so many like realistic city management factors. So, tiptoeing Tortuga, yes. Davide, yes. So we also gained some other cards. These aren't too important for now. And there it is. We're back like only 40 minutes into the stream. We're finally into it. Okay, so we have some danger in our city to start with. So there's, if I go to the city, there's, I think, 3 negative modifiers you can have. You can have danger, which just means people are a little bit distressed about an outside event, which like usually enemy military or enemy marauders, they're nearby. Could be also radioactivity, that people don't like living in a dangerous town. Surprise, surprise. So, this just not going to make people as happy. If we go to our population happiness here, you can see by the heart, and this is for all the people. This heart with the person with a hard hat is for our workers. So this is population happiness, workers happiness. We're in a big town, 72,000 people in this town. Right now we have 1,500 workers. It explains it. If you add up the total number of like non-worker population and the number of workers, you get the total population of our city. So our city happiness has gone down a little bit just because it's diminishing with this danger. Now, hopefully we can take care of that right away. But here's the map. So that map which we generated where we had all that, those lakes and all that, we now have no idea where on that map we are, except for I guess you do know your latitude, but we don't know our longitude. We don't know where the other lakes are. It's all a mystery, and from this perspective, this is what I really mean by a true 4X explore game. So first order of business, I think, is probably look at our decisions. Ascension speech. So when we have come to power, we have the ability to kind of make a statement right away. Now, I prefer the mind, but it looks like one of our advisors does not like that. And he's also a member of the Sacred Union. If I go to, my coalitions? Yeah. So the Sacred Union and the Armed Knights are 2 factions in my regime. So I don't directly control these. These are just like, I don't know, what's a way of thinking about them? You can kind of think of them as strong. Maybe you could think of them as almost like, in a parliament, there'd be different groups. They don't directly influence me. I guess they directly apply pressure to me by asking for certain things, but I'm still High Lord and ruler of the very democratic Tortuga coalition. So this is the Senate. Yeah, it says right there Senate. I think that's a fair way of saying about it. Although the Senate doesn't really have, I don't know, it's a little bit of an abstraction how much rights they have. So the Sacred Union prefers the heart and the government. Well, I like the government side of that, although I went government, so Sacred Union, they probably are going to like us, and therefore we will like them. Now, the Armed Knights are enforcement meritocracy, and because we're meritocratic, I think that the Armed Knights will also like us. So you can see, because the Sacred Union likes heart, and if I go to my chain of events, the mind kind of controls the heart controls the fist, and the fist controls the mind. So this is this feedback loop. Yeah, now there's feedback back and forth, but I mean, more or less that's the order of events here. So if I choose mind, it will limit the amount of heart. So no two of these added up together can be over 100. They can for a specific moment, but they will eventually equalize to 100. So which means that if my mind was already at 70 and the heart was at 33, these would eventually neutralize back down to like either 69 and 31, something like that. They would reorganize themselves back to only 100. So you're not allowed to get too unbalanced in this without greatly diminishing your... I mean, you can get very unbalanced, but you can't have all of them at the same time. Though, I mean, you could have 50-50-50, or you can have 100-0-0. So, I mean, you pick and choose what you want. Now, although this is going to impact Osiris's opinion of me, and all the decisions you make in this game are going to have an impact on the people who you're ruling, and all the advisors you have, all the council members, they're all going to be impressed, or, I mean, sometimes they just don't care, but they can also be insulted by your decisions. And a person who's insulted by your decisions may choose to work a little bit less hard for you. So their actual effectiveness of your councils is impacted by the relations you have with the council directors. Let's choose calculating and logical. We can also get a new organization. Now, I did a start. I mentioned I would talk about this later. I did a start where we only started with one council, which is just the Supreme Council. If we had started with 4 councils, it would have given us these first 4, top 3, and then the Staff Council. And so just to explain what that starting option is. Now, I think it's possible for you to manipulate the budget so that you give all the money to only one of them anyway. So there's not really a disadvantage with starting with more councils. But it doesn't provide too much of a bonus. I kind of like starting small. It also has less things to manage. But we will add an economic council right away, which I think is, for a long-term game at least, it's to the research side of things. It's very important. So with our decisions out of the way, we can actually start moving troops around on the map. I think it makes sense to first look at any mobile units we have and send them down the road. Okay, well right away we see that there are some kind of... We see that this is a non-aligned force. Over here, we see that there's a minor, Phoenixshire. So somewhere up to our north is another group of people of some kind, which I think we'd like to go and explore. In fact, this particular military unit is much more of an exploring type. It does have artillery, but here's a much more... You can see the combat strength, 7 versus 20. This one's much more capable of dealing with militia type stuff, or military stuff. So I'm going to move this one down here, and we can see that this is quite a powerful unit at 35. We may want to put a few units into position to let them... this is the reason why I'm assuming we have 7 danger. Now, I still want to go and investigate other places. Note as well that the terrain of this, you can see in the bottom right over here, low mountain. So this is mountainous terrain. This is plains grassy. We're in ruins, which is a very good one. We have 6,000 scavenging material. We can get some metal and some... all our resources are on the left. We get some oil and some metal from that. If I go to my assets, look, we're jumping all over the map here, but we can see metal and oil. And if we were to, decide to declare this as a public asset, make it a government-controlled one instead of letting the private economy run it, we might also get some rare metals out of that. But the rare metals goes to the private economy if we let the private... they give us some kickback of metal and oil, but otherwise we'd have to take control of that ourselves, which makes some people unhappy, obviously, if we want to get the rare metals out of it, which is this brown metal shape. So we still have one more person who can move. I want to move somebody north. I mean, I can finish moving this guy north, which is probably what I'll do. And we're not seeing any raiders on that side, which is good. So because I can't move very far to the southwest, and I can move further down the road that way, I'm either going to move this way or this way. I just want to know where any other possible raiders are. And the fact that I'm not getting any... My zone of control hasn't stopped progressing. So like here, our zone of control did not move here because there was a person there. And my zone of control, even though it spreads out to all hexes normally, it did not advance onto this hex because an enemy unit is exerting zone of control and they got there first. So the fact that my zone of control is moving out in all directions as I'm moving this militia is a good sign. It means that there's no units, at least right here, or right here, right here, etc. But if I move further, okay, so we actually were able to get all the way over there without any zone of control blockage, which means we don't see any enemy units in this area. You're done moving. Looks like everything's fine. We'll probably have to, expand out this way a little bit more, but we can do that next turn. So that's our very first turn. Maybe we can look at how are we doing. We're gaining a little bit of food. We're gaining a little bit of water. We're gaining oil and metal from the metal plant. Industrial points are very important. These are a lot of the construction. Obviously, for construction, we need metal as a building resource, but we also have industrial points, which is it's a little bit hard. It's like the ability to construct things, but you save it as a unit. So maybe you can think of it as like you take the metal and then the industrial points is the work that you needed to do to make the metal into some prefab building parts or something like that, and then these industrial points are needed for the construction of buildings. So it's not something that it's not like a production limit. It is a production limit, but it's not something which is like, what I'm trying to say is it's not a per turn thing. It's actually a resource that you can stockpile. So it's not the workers that we have, which is another resource. That's the limit of work we can do. Industrial points is kind of like you needed to do some kind of manipulation of things. I don't know. This one's a hard one for me to abstract. I'll let somebody in the chat try to do it better. Anyway, industrial points are just another resource that you need to build, and they're built by factories. So yeah, you can think of it as some kind of output from factories, I guess, whatever that might be. Processed goods. Shard says, get that town to the northwest. It looks like I, without knowing it, have satisfied the will of the people, which is very contrary to the normal way of dealing with things as Tortuga. Another thing, by the way, this is a high mountain and a city. Now, there is such thing as hide points, which means the ability for me to reveal information about a different hex. Now, normal planes have a hide value, I think, a limit of 40, and we can see we have recon 60 here, so we actually know a little bit of information. But both towns and high mountains provide additional hide points, which means that we can see my zone of control is not advanced this way, and we don't see the reason why this hex would not be acquired by my zone of control is only if there's an enemy unit here, because I got this one, so the enemy unit is not here, and if it's okay, it could be here as well. It could be here, in which case, yeah, we wouldn't have acquired this one. So it could be one of these two places. However, we didn't get one here, so there's only two options. The enemy unit could be here and here, or it could be, and most likely is, in the town itself. And it makes sense when the Marauders originally deploy. They do like to congregate in these towns. So to me, it makes a lot of sense that although we can't see them, our military is not aware of the presence of anybody in this town. And if I were to, next turn at least, move into this town, my people would go in there kind of in a scattered formation, maybe a loose column formation on the road, not really moving in like battle lines as an assault. And when the enemy suddenly started gunning down our troops who are completely unprepared, we would obviously take a lot of casualties. And this happens in this game. There's an ambush factor. So we only have 47 recon. If I were to bring up more people, and I may do this next turn, we'll see, I think that we may find that we reveal the presence of an enemy in this hex. One thing I would like to do is hit A, which is going to change us from move mode to ranged attack mode. Now, I mentioned that this unit has a strong military value. One of the things it has is irregular artillery. So I can right-click on this one, and I only have 20 action points remaining, but that'll give me 2 rounds of bombardment. Now, that's definitely not as much as 10 rounds of bombardment. In fact, I don't expect much to happen here. But there's no real reason not to bombard them. We may get lucky, and this will be our first look at combat. Okay, we actually had a phenomenally lucky bombardment. That, with this one on the top left, means that unit scored a hit of some kind. So total hits scored, you can see, is 1. Which means that we did actually land some hits. We reduced the fighting effectiveness of this unit. Now, don't believe that this 85 initial readiness, or combat effectiveness, I think is a fair way of describing readiness. Do not think that the total unit with a full combat strength of 35 has lost readiness from 85 down to 43 after only 2 hits. We only have eyes on the effect for 200 of these units, and most likely those are the exact 200 units that we affected with our bombardment. So we are seeing that if this 35 is actually 3,900 rifle militia, we're only seeing, like a 4% of the effect on the total unit, or, some really small amount. Well, I guess it'd be like almost 10%. No, yeah, 5%. Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, why do math on stream? That's Tortuga, you should know better. I think at this point we're ready to go. We could do some trade. This is what I started to talk about before when I got off onto the resources stuff. So we could sell anything that we think we're going to have a little bit of extra of, just to start building up a resource, like a little bank of stuff. And that's going to be very useful going forward. The fact that we have a positive flow of food at plus 24, water at plus 36, these are all good. One thing, of course, I should do before I end the turn is, welcome Warrior Donut. I should construct something here. And I think what I'm going to start off by doing is getting a bureaucratic office. So the first thing we generally want to go for is a industry. But to do that, we're going to need a lot of metal. We have 142, we're gaining 50 a turn. And right now, that's going to take us just eons. Just eons and eons to get to the 1,500 total metal that we need. And there's also no sense in starting to build something too early, because you do pay the upkeep cost for it while it's in. So even if you mothball construction on something, you're still paying for this upkeep, which makes sense. You don't want it to deteriorate. And one of the things I could do is, how's our water situation? I don't know. It seems fine, but if I press 1, we can turn off our units just to see things a little more clearly for a moment. We only have 1 hex of water. What's our water gain right now? 36. So if we end up setting up any kind of open air, I think we are allowed, if I go to the reports and the help, we can go back to our biosphere and we can see that there's no atmospheric farming hazard. So we may need a lot of water for a farming thing. In fact, these are probably the first 2 things we want to build. Let's go ahead, go over here, and let's build planet alien nutrition. Planet biohazard level has to be, planet biohazard level has to be lower than level 3. So it looks like our atmospheric farming hazard is not bad, but because our atmospheric human hazard is bad, turns out we can't do open farming. So that's fine. We're going to end up using domes here. So let's do that then. Let's. I think we can. Let's see. 100. This is going to take 200 metal. We might be able to. We can probably buy a little bit of metal right now just to get us over the hump. This will take 200 water a turn. That's actually a little bit more than we have, right, coming in. So instead, it looks like we're going to first build an ice mining facility to dig in and get some water. Now, I don't know if this is going to be necessary. We may end up even aborting the construction next turn if we see our water level skyrocket. But it's always good to have water and then food, and then you can start building your plan from there when your people aren't starving. It's very un-Tortuga-like to make sure his people aren't starving, but we're going to try to care just this once. Okay, so let's end the turn. Warrior Donut says, just arrived my first planet, and I got crushed. It's probably fair to expect some butt kicking as you learn the game. Its scope is gargantuan. Yeah, absolutely. I can't emphasize enough this idea that you should definitely start on beginner difficulty. Warrior Donut, if you don't mind sharing, would you care to let us know what difficulty you started on? Because if you started even on beginner difficulty and you got your butt kicked, that'll be a good like testimonial to further enforce this point that people should start on beginner. It's not easy. Okay, so round 2, we have 5 decisions, 49 reports waiting for us. Our militia holds a parade to show their strength and loyalty. We're still in our time of culture, which means the private economy is getting a bonus. And because we expanded into some nearby towns, we actually found some machinery in that the one near Tredias, which I think is the one to the northwest. Okay, so I'm going to dismiss these goals because I know how to play a little bit. So I won't, hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully I won't need to reference that too much. Okay, so what do we see? It looks like one of the things that happened is this guy moved away and he disappeared from our vision. For some reason, I can't figure out why, we still don't have control over this hex. Okay, well let's figure out why. Oh my goodness. Alright, this is low mountains. They could easily still be there. I'm so scared. Low mountains is just no place for a person to move. Blind. Ugh. Ugh. Okay, well, we've narrowed down the possibilities. Let's just say it that way. I'm going to move this unit back. And can I do A on a hex, which we don't? Yeah, we can bombard a hex without actually knowing what's there, which is pretty funny. I'm going to do that, see if anything happens. Yeah, okay, so now somehow we know that there are free folk marauders there. I don't know if it knows that because it's letting me do the bombardment. I don't know if this might be even something Vic does not desire, but we decided to start bombarding them. We really do want that city, so I mean, the faster they can get out of there, the better. As far as things in the north go, and I haven't looked at logistics yet, but we'll get there. Let's start moving our mobile unit further north. We gain Craig. I'd even like to go over here. Can I just bum rush this? I guess I can. I'm not going to get there in time. I messed up. I went this way instead of that way. We'll go down just to keep expanding our control. Tricky. I'm going to take a risk here and hope that these reconnect. They did. Wow, we got lucky. Because now the best way to get supplied next turn will be... Oh, let's just take a... I mean, why waste any more time? This is my logistics right now. In the town, and one of my assets is a transport hub. This transport hub, let's just look at only the assets in this particular hex. So now if I go to any particular hex, I can see only the assets in that hex. The town here, the town plus the new... Ooh, we almost completely finished building this. Oh, wow. So we're quite short on industrial points. Did I not have 50? I think 50 is allocated for next turn, but yeah, production of this will go a little bit slower. I made a mistake, essentially. I should have waited a few more turns to start building the water mine. We didn't have enough industrial points stockpiled, so now we'll be paying upkeep for something which we aren't building at the fastest rate. Anyway, logistics is emanating from this transport hub, and you can see here the total points is 400. The total action points is 50, which means that, well, I think it means an extension of 50, but let's forget about the second number for now and just focus on the first one, the truck points. So this means that 200 points of logistics is going out. How is this important? Well, if I click on my ice mining thing, you'll see that asset need 100 LAS, which is logistics, points, and 200 were present. So we had no problem delivering all the necessary logistics to our ice mine, which is under construction. So normally you just want to get logistics out to the different assets you have that are not located. Obviously, we have 100% access to logistics in our town itself. Just there's no limitation on the number of things you can build in your city. All of them will immediately have access to logistics because they're in your logistics headquarters. Now, if I were to look at used, let's go to used. I started this turn with the militia here, with the other militia truck here. He was here, and this guy was... Wasn't somebody here? Are they both here? I forget. Anyway, basically this green dot thing just shows that it took a little bit of logistics to get out to people. I mean, I guess this is used. Yeah. So we used a little bit of logistics to get supplies out to these people. And probably all this, the dotted line probably means that this was all done with the unit's ability to collect supplies themselves. I don't know, did we actually use any logistics? I don't see any solid lines indicating that we actually used logistics. We had 200 points going everywhere, and I think we have 200 points everywhere still. Yeah. So basically what happens, although we have logistics, and this is how units will get supplies, these units do have supplies that they request and they receive every turn. It's just so interesting, the depth of this game. Because of that should normally eat up some of your logistics to transport those goods. And I think it's generally just 1 point of logistics per thing you want to receive. Now, the reason why we didn't have to deal with any of that is your units have built in an ability to collect supplies. And this is just so that they don't have to go and be stuck on a road to get supplies. So even if they're slightly off-road, I think you can go usually like 2-3 hexes without a problem off-road without without missing any of your supply. So just that's my brief story on logistics. It's actually been an hour for the stream, so I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break, get myself a drink of water, and it's good. It's pretty healthy, I guess, every hour to stand up, stretch, just do a quick walk, make sure you're not in a seated position for too long. So I encourage anyone else. Oh, welcome, Mr. Gandalf. I didn't see you there, but now I do. I'll take a look at the Twitch chat when I get back as well. I'll just get a drink of water, maybe stand up, read some just exchange some comments with the Twitch people, and then we'll continue with the stream. So let me just quickly get my water, and I'll be right back. Okay, good. Let me just interact with the stream chat real fast. I hope everyone else took an opportunity to just get up and stretch. And, I just learned about this stuff more. Maybe it's completely useless, but some people say now that you should really be getting up frequently and just making sure you're not stuck in the seated position for too long. So let me actually do this while standing. Warrior Donuts, I actually never saw your comment. Let's see. Beginner. Yeah, so Warrior Donut did play a game on Beginner. He's our testimonial that everyone should start on Beginner. And he quickly died. So please start on Beginner. There's no difficulty lower than Beginner. Anyway. So welcome to everyone who's on the stream right now. I just see Mr. Gandalf in the chat. Always great to see him. The spiders have been killing him. How deep does diplomacy with other factions go in the game, or is it primarily a war-focused strategy? In my opinion, it is mostly a war-focused game. There is diplomacy. So with other majors, you can have some tech sharing agreements, scientific cooperation, I think it's called. Maybe it's scientific and tech sharing. There might be two different tiers along the diplomatic path. You can do not non-aggression pacts, but what is it? Just like making contact. There is a flow to the diplomacy. I don't think it's the shining point of this game, and probably it could even be something. It's a future point for improvement. I think Vic would likely agree with me saying that, but don't let me put words in his mouth. So let's see. I'm very confused by stockpiles. There was a drain on set to zones with no way I could determine why or how to change that. I think, yeah, so Volano says it. Sent to zones is stuff sent over logistics network to pay for upkeep of things. Pretty abstract info on hover. Usually means you are using it for construction. Okay, yeah. Real strategy gamers always start on hardest difficulty. Sevi. Oh god, Sevi, please no. So he says that it's you must start on the hardest difficulty essentially, but I mean I welcome the hearing about the results of your attempts to do so, Sevi. Of course, I would love to hear about that. So let's get back into the game, and hope everyone had a chance to stretch, move your legs, get a drink of water, these kind of things. Okay, so we've made it a whopping 2 turns so far, right? It's probably time for us to start kicking this up into high gear, which is what I planned for the second hour of this stream. Now, just a note for those of you who might be like, oh, this Tortuga guy, I would really like to see somebody who is such a nice person and a well-known Forex commodity in the content creation universe. Well, guess what? If you stick around for another hour, I will have the pleasure of handing off a Shadow Empire stream, this one, to Nookrium. Nookrium is going to be streaming Shadow Empire for Slytherin starting at it's noon Pacific, which is just in 50 minutes. So that would be 3 p.m. Eastern time, and for those of you in Europe, just think 50 minutes from now. All right, so let's end this turn as soon as we do our decisions. I normally like to do my decisions first, and this is exactly why, because sometimes you have things which may shift you the way you want to behave. Dissatisfied elements in Phoenixshire. Oh, and you know what? Phoenixshire is not us, which I'm just finishing a co-op play with Das Tactic, and we ran into just oodles and oodles of problems with our cities. So when I see a dissatisfied elements, I immediately think, oh god, not again. My city is collapsing. Hansen, however, despite a little bit of, there's a small element of the population which is discontent with the Marauders being so close by. In fact, we're still mostly a happy people, and the workers are actually quite enjoying themselves. So we're gaining recruits, we're gaining people, and we're gaining workers. All of those things. Gaining all 3 of those is quite a good thing. So this dissatisfied elements is in Phoenixshire, which is our neighbor. Which means I haven't read this yet, but I imagine that somebody is going to say, yep, they want us to help invade. Well, this sounds like a fun little thing to do. Fun little excursion. Our first Supreme Headquarters will appreciate this. Our actual Supreme Command Council will not like this. It's probably because the Armed Knights don't like democracy or heart, and apparently that's probably one of the things the Sacred Union. It's really funny here because we have both the leaders. We're going to have an impact on both the leaders in one little decision. So if we give them 250 credits and then we guarantee we'll invade, they will spawn like 2 rebel units to support our invasion. Well, it's a little bit crazy for us to do, but we'll say yes because I think it'll make things interesting. I kind of recommend a 50-50 split at first, maybe even more than 50% into your economic council eventually. So we'll do this for our budget. The Supreme Ruler, Supreme Council Director is not particularly happy with losing a lot of budget, but it had to be done. As far as this goes, I do want to keep our militia high, our militia profile high, which does help us recruit more militia. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, please allocate 200 credits for reward for their services, which will give us militia plus 10. We can't afford the 600. We probably could if we did trade, but I don't think that it's a good investment for us to spend all of our money on the militia right now. And then we need a new director for the Economic Council. Well, turns out we have somebody. The good news about him is that he likes us. The bad news is his suitability is 0. He's pretty much incompetent, which isn't entirely true. He does have some intelligence, but he has almost no capacity for growth, so no potential. In situations like this, we're going to rely on our Recruit Junior card. This will take some amount of political points, which I haven't really gone into all this. The fate points I talked about, but I didn't even really talk about the political points. It's just your political capital. I mean, it's the time investment that you can spend looking into matters, things like this. Welcome, Ellen Devout. Can we get it today? Yes, you can! And thank you for Mr. Gandalf sharing the link. It's available on Matrix Games, so... Oh man, I can't wait to see... So I'm going to be starting a YouTube series on this today, and I'm really looking forward to the fun interactions in the comments, which I've kind of been away from my comment section for the past month, but I'll be returning for this, obviously. And just to see all the different starts that people are doing and all the different things that people are doing to having fun. Okay, so let's recruit a junior. This is going to give us, hey, it may not give us somebody better. It at least gives us a second choice. So we just recruited somebody new to our candidate pool. He also has a suitability of 0. He likes us. He has capacity of 4 and much higher intelligence. This guy is, without question, going to be the person we appoint. Now, our new Economic Council Director would like to know how I would like to prioritize the spending of his resources and his time. Right now, discovery is going to be very important. I haven't shown the tech tree yet, but we'll go to that right about next. And I'm not going to focus on economic policies too much right now, because more importantly right now is going to be prospecting. We want to find a source of metal, because we currently don't have a source of metal, and it will be important to have. And I also want to find, so that's 25%. I also want to start getting some research done. So I'll confirm this distribution. Seems like a pretty sensible one. And just so we understand what we're getting ourselves into, let's go over and look at the tech tree underneath the management screen. It's nice. I like it. This game also does a fantastic job with research where it breaks it into 2 parts. And I haven't seen this done by too many other games. Like the way real technology advancements happen, the way, let's say, a new laser is being used by the military, how does that actually happen? Well, we're going to have to abstract it somehow. I mean, we can't replicate every detail of the science and then the engineering, but VR Designs, so Vic, the developer of this game, has broken it down into a way. I think that there's been other stuff like this, but I really find this is a clever way of doing it. And I think this is somewhat done similar to Aurora 4X, or Aurora 4X has a similar system where you first have to just let science push the boundaries of science. So you let science, this is the discovery investment. This is essentially all those government funding, all the government funding which goes into scientific research, that goes into like universities. And what happens from, they publish a lot of papers and almost nothing practical, and when you actually, Ruh-roh. Okay, we're back. It's very unusual. I don't know why this, I have these sudden drops. Oh, what? Oh no. It's happening. Okay, that's fine. Whew. Yeah, so anyway, I was just saying this break between science and engineering is actually kind of a good thing that the stream cut me off, because I was probably going to spend way too much time describing it. But basically you have science happening, and that does not lead to anything practical. You then need to take those things, and somebody needs to, they patent the idea, and then industry, starts working on it. This 2-stage type approach to research is so cool. I think it's really cool that you have this discovery phase, which is essentially the science phase, and then you have the actual research of a technology phase, which means that, hey, we have theoretically discovered how fusion works. Or even we've discovered it. Yeah, sorry, Sevi. almost positive it's on my end. I've had some issues with my internet service provider in the last 3 months, and even upgraded to a... Anyway, doesn't matter. But so this two-step approach to the way research gets implemented into your actual army and stuff, I think is really well done. And I would love to see this implemented by other games. But we're burning the candle at both ends right now. We've got limited time before Nucrium steps up, so let's just continue pushing on. I think we're good for this turn then. Just trying to show everything. It's impossible. Welcome, Typo Spear. Oh, B. Vargas, 78. Oh, okay, we were attacked. Oh, we were attacked again. We killed 700 infantry, and we lost 100. Okay. Okay, this is amazing. We discovered fuel deposits in Hansen. Our private economy bonus is continuing, and our economic council has gotten to work right away by discovering the concept of a university. Now, I suppose this apocalypse really hit the people hard if they lost the ability to think of an institution like the very concept of a place where people go and study together was so foreign to them that they rediscovered the principle of it. Now, that's just the discovery, as I said. So now our team of scientists have passed on this novel concept of a school, and our engineers will now get to work on thinking how they can build that. Very interesting. I'll keep deleting these pop-ups, but they do provide some useful information. Yeah, so we have a goal to go to war with Phoenixshire, but we still have some time left. If I go to reports and demand, we have 11 rounds left, so we're still doing okay on that. Let's look at our one decision. Slave trader. Oh, we have a slave trader. Interesting. So a sinister trader that came from the wastelands has set up shop just outside town. His trade is trade in humans. He is a slave trader. Now we can ignore him. We could sell 2,000 population for 100 credits. We can buy 2,000 population for 200 credits. Or we could extort tax payment from this the slave trader. Now, this has a difficulty rating of 200. We need to intimidate him, and for whatever reason, our people are not particularly intimidating. So this would give us government points, but it's almost, well, it's not just almost, it is guaranteed to fail. It's slightly illegal to choose to do this. Then we have get rid of this evil trader. This is an average difficulty of 87, and we on average are going to roll a 61. So our average is actually almost the starting point for this, because you can see it's a 60 D50 plus D50, so it's going to be between 60 and 110. And for us, we're at an 11 plus D100, so 11 to 111, or 12 to 111. So none of these things really seem like a good idea at the moment. We're going to just ignore him.
Roger that.
And Grogner says, advisor attached with covert ops. Yeah, let me at least point this out. So there are things that you can normally do with your leaders, like add a shadow spy to improve their roles on these particular events. Some of them add like roles to just the next event. Some of them you can get little attachments to your leader, like this propaganda assistant. It increases the leader's charisma based roles by 10. That probably would include an intimidate. I'm not sure, but I imagine. Or maybe intimidate is a separate one. Let's actually play this on our... one of the best people to play a charisma based one on is your governor. So we're going to have some decisions to make with him, and I'm going to go ahead and put that assistant on. Now, I am an idiot because without really thinking what I was doing there, that used up our only fate point. Now, the only other fate point we have, which costs 1, is a fate stratagem which increases the worker happiness. I have to say, worker happiness is not typically a problem. The reason why it was a bad idea is because we're still, we were only 1 fate point away from playing Traveling Teachers, which is a really good event. Gives you a school which adds quality of life education to your city. So it's very good. Now, we can't do that yet, but if we choose to do this event paranoia later, we will gain 2 fate points. Now, this comes at the trade-off of increasing fear in the city by 4 to 40. So it's 40-10. But it gives us some fate points. Now, fear has a limitation that its the maximum value of your happiness is 100 minus the fear level. So if we happen to roll the absolute worst case here and get 40, our maximum happiness would be 60. So I think it's actually okay for us to do this. I don't think we'll get that high of a roll.
Roger that.
Yeah, we got 16. So it may even diminish. I don't think it's going to diminish danger. How are we doing here? Diminish 1 due to time, increase 1 due to the presence of an enemy. Okay. So that seemed like we got 2 fate points for free. We're immediately going to use that on a traveling teacher, which is going to construct this school, which is actually going to feed back and make our people happier. So it's all good. Just an intricate cycle of card usage. Now, this says military strength of only 4. I am skeptical. When we click on them, they claim to have 3,600 militia. What's very clear from this, and hopefully you get an idea of this from the recon, is recon of 50 is just not enough. And we can see that minimum recon for unit info is 40, but it's 90 for this hex because we have both a town. I think the town is 20, it might be 10, and the high mountain itself is either 30 or 40. So some combination of having a town and having the high mountain is creating 50 hide points, which means that we need 50 points of recon to have some basic information about this, which we clearly don't have. Now, the good news is, although this truck unit can't move into high mountains, that's just an impassable terrain for any tracked or wheeled vehicles. The only way you can go up into the Alps, right, into the Himalayas, is it's on foot. You're not going to take a truck up there or a tank. It's just, be an absurd thing. At least not, I think you could drive some vehicles up there, but they wouldn't just be normal trucks, right? So we can bombard this, though, and I think we will continue to do that.
Fire in the hole.
We got lucky last time. We may get lucky again.
Affirmative.
Okay. Turns out that our luck was extremely good last turn, or maybe not so good this turn. We didn't end up hitting anybody with 10 rounds of bombardment, where we got landed actually 2 hits with only 2 rounds of bombardment. So, RNG is working and, doing his thing here. I also want to know who attacked us. So we killed 500 units because they attacked us here, and they did kill 100 of our rifle militia for 200 losses of their own there. Okay. Well, that's fine. I think we're just going to basically stay where we are, and we'll keep building up our entrenchment. Entrenchment won't build up for much for vehicles, but we're at 140 here because we're in the low mountains, and we're at 40 here because we're in the plains. Obviously, much easier to entrench in mountainous terrain. So I'll move here so that we complete the zone of control over there. We'll move here, and hey, what do you know? What do you see? I see a orange border. And what that indicates is the presence of a major of some kind. So my first order of business is go here. Yes, we got this town. That's fantastic. In fact, seeing the ruins over here is actually really, really intriguing. However, my first priority when I see an enemy, well, it's not an enemy yet, but when I see a regime is immediately go over and start claiming the border next to them so that with majors, so this is an actual major, which means it's a competing power on the same level as me, as my own regime. This is one of the ones that we're going to be fighting for the ultimate conquest of the planet. Like these minors, they don't grow, but the majors are your major contenders for power on the planet. And although minors, so this is technically a minor regime, Phoenixshire, and you can see that we are freely conquering their territory. They're freely conquering ours if they have any military units that were on the borders. We'd see them just also conquering ours. There's not an immediate diplomatic arrangement between minor to major powers. Now that's not true with majors. With majors is an understood agreement that we should not violate each other's sovereign claims, which are just claimed by being the first person to that hex. Very similar to other 4X games, right? So for these, although we can actually establish contact with the miners, which will establish a border, we have a de facto non-aggression pact, I guess, or de facto border acknowledgement agreement with an initial starting border agreement with the other major powers. So seeing as orange border means that's one of the other majors, that's one of our competitors, or potentially if we try to ally with them. I don't know if that, I've never gotten that far. But okay, and the oil deposit we saw, it looks like it's down here. Well, the good news is it's on a road, so we don't have to build a road to it, which is nice. The downside is we're gonna have to deal with these marauders before we deal with any of that. And honestly, oil, it's great. It's a really good resource to have, but we're much more in the market for metal. Much more in the market for metal. Okay, so let's end this turn. I don't think there's much more we can do here. Did we already move everyone? So we can now cycle units with 9. Oh, good. So there it is. Oh, we're having a quick glitch. If you get that glitch, just zoom out, zoom back in. So we could move this unit forward, but then it will ruin our entrenchment. Although, do we care? I don't think so. I'm actually going to do something like this so we keep pushing our border. Yeah. So this unit could move out of the mountains. That will make him an easier target for me to attack. And he can't move closer to our town because moving this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, oh. Tortuga is very bad at hex math. He can. So if he moves here, he'll move out, but he will move closer to our town, which probably will increase danger. We'll have to live with that. All right. Logistics, just quickly to look at. Used. Is everyone getting what they want? Yeah, everyone's green. Okay, good. End the turn. Sorry, Typo Spear says, sorry, joined late. How many possible major factions? How many in the scenario you're playing? Yeah, this is determined by the planet type, the planet size. So there's not you don't set the number yourself directly, but you can choose it by planet size. Okay, we were attacked again. They lost 200 more units. Very aggressive. It does say, I think, in the reports, which I'll go to, it's in the planet generation. So our private economy is really ticking up, some bonus points. Now we gained accomplished envoys. I haven't even gotten into this yet, but okay. And our scouts in the new city have found 300 Galactic Republic jetpack equipment. So we've equipped some people accordingly. Great. Let's go to the reports real fast and look at that for Typosphere. So in the help, colonization, you had 17 zones, and then after the apocalypse, we have... Oh, is it in the summary? Well, I mean, look, I can go to victory overview, and it'll show me that there are 3 majors on this planet. So I'm actually leading the race right now in population and in, well, not in planet exploration, but in populace. So there's the Picard Pax, the Kalimborn Hansa, which is the one directly to our northwest. And then there's somewhere... Oh, yeah, no, that's it. The Picard Pax, which I already mentioned. So Robin Path wants total power over a state. So this is my governor, who I just gave additional charisma points to. Is he going to make me regret it? He wants to do something, and I'm just going to choose the option which gives me mind. Minus autocracy plus mind. This is a very good choice.
Roger that.
Okay. The militia have gifted us with another unit, which is very nice. I just want to kind of explore here. Okay, good. Maybe move this unit here as well. We can do some ranged bombardment here for one turn. Obviously was not expecting much with so little points, but we'll also do bombardment of this one, just continuing the attempt to weaken them. The ideal would be to land a kill. If possible. But no hits, no kills, no kills, no hits. No effect on the bombardment this turn. Okay, well, fair enough. So going back to movement mode, I do still want to push our borders with these guys as far as possible. And then I want to come back a little bit as well. I could push it one more. Okay. We might be cut off from supply next turn, but at least we're establishing our borders with the Kallenhorn Hansa. So that's good. And look at this. We aren't going to have a road, but we can race our borders over here just to stop them. Just to stop them from getting this town. And they could, if their unit is right here, which it could be, they could still move 1, 2, and then it becomes a race to see who actually eliminates this marauder first. And honestly, this is not necessarily the best situation for me either. I really want these marauders to come out of the town and then they'll take some of the border back. But what we see here is that this is their city right over here in this hex. You can see that if I turn on the hexes, 2, 3, 4. The names of the city actually bleeds over into the next hex. So if you have the a city in this hex is actually kind of discovered by having its name to the northeast. It's a little bit funny. Okay, not much to do this turn because we're still not in the mood to attack. We're still slowly building up. Oh wait, has our asset? Okay, construction is finished on the ice mine. So the next order of business for us, I know that we have an income of food, but food is always necessary. Our people need food. I mean, our armies need food. So it's nice to, in my opinion, to have a strong. I'm actually, because our water supply is doing so well, I'm going to turn this down to 25% production, which doesn't. I don't think we're going to end up needing all that water. And right before we get that burst of water, it might make sense for us to even sell. Well, the price is only 0.16, which is not quite good. In fact, metal being so cheap, 1.12, I might even want to buy 99 metal here, which is all we can do unless we sell some other goods. So there is some market manipulation which you can do. We started with we did not start with machines, but we got the machines parts from one of our first discoveries, opening up one of the, for claiming one of the little free folk cities. That was very, very, very valuable. I mean, just to give you an idea, if I wanted to buy 15 of these, it would cost me something like 600 credits. So it's obviously just an insanely good value that we basically picked up 600 credits for exploring Tridius. So you can think of the towns, the very first time they're visited, it's kind of like the goodie huts from Civilization. So it's definitely worth getting. Okay, further east, I'm seeing some reasons why we might not want to go into Phoenixshire, namely the presence of radioactivity. And we're not expanding our border, which is also a little troublesome. Oh, never mind. This is the Galactic Republic units that we got. And these units are actually pretty weak. They don't have a zone of control. So we're not going to exert zone of control and expand it that way. So that's good to know. Movement, do we want to maybe push into the town here? Well, I mean, I think we're set up in a nice way that they keep attacking us and they keep dying. So let's just leave everything where it is and end the turn again. Oh, construction? Yeah, we don't need to do construction this turn. Okay, we see them stacking up against the border, expanding their border south. Oh, an attack, and it was a successful one, I would say. They killed 100 units, only lost 100 units. Wow, more fuel deposits, wow. Bureaucracy, okay, I forgot that to mention the roles. Okay, thank you. The problem with supply. So if I go over to profile, I guess to start, let's look at the government balancing, or the regime balancing. We have society, we have government on the top, I think, well, politics on the top. This is society, and then we have psychology, are the three different areas where we can affect the regime's personality, let's say. Right now, we've gone towards meritocracy, we've gone towards government, and we've gone a lot towards mine. What effect does that have? If you rest your cursor, it brings up some kind of discipline. It can give regime feats, discipline, efficiency, strong arming. All that is shown to you in the profiles menu under management. So if we go into management into profiles, we can see that I've already gained bureaucracy, which is, by the way, the best. The best. This is a plus 40% bonus to my bureaucratic points, which is fantastic. Really, really good. We've also gained accomplished envoys, and the kind of funny thing here is the percentage chance you have to gain something. It starts with the 40 at the first tier. Every point, you have 1% plus every point. Let me try to explain this better. You have 1 percentage point for every point above 39 that you are for the first tier. So you can say you start at 1% at 40, and every point above 40 you are is an increase of 1%. So at 48 meritocracy, our chance to gain accomplished envoys per turn would have been 9%. And same thing with government at 48. And we can see that this for mind is at 63. Well, if you start at 1% at 40, you just basically add 23 plus 1, and you get 24 to the chance of discovering this. And so it's just weird that we got the two 9% rolls, but we did not get our 24% roll. Anyway, that's how the percentage is chosen. So the more, the further you are, the deeper you are into one focus of one of those little triangles, the more likely you are to get the earlier stuff. And then it just, the progression down the tree is pretty simple. You just add 10 points or subtract the percentage, 10% from the percentage of this one to get the percentage of the next ones, which means to say that if you start at 1% at 40 here, 1% starts at 50 for the second column, it starts at 60%, or 1% starts at 60 points for the third column, 70, 80, and then 90. So it's going to be very difficult. You have to be very, very, very one-dimensional, very focused in one particular, aspect of the three options in order to get to the farthest rungs. I normally don't find myself getting that far. Even if I highly, highly focus on something, the farthest I've ever gotten is to the second to last column. But that doesn't mean that you can't get there. It just takes a very dedicated effort. Okay, so we only have 15 minutes left in the stream before Nookrium takes over. So again, if you're interested in watching this, you can watch someone else's take on it just after this one ends. Let's keep pushing up here and moving in here. And I am seeing more radioactive stuff there. This guy was cut off from supply because, well, very simply, he didn't have... very simply, he did not have zone of control, which was exerted because when they attacked and defeated me, they won the right to the zone of control next to me. So we're going to have to move back, and unfortunately, this means quite possibly that these guys will end up bordering that town, which I really wanted to get to, but let's be honest, let's be realistic. It's not a very realistic option at the moment. Okay, so we'll keep moving here. In fact, I'll even move here, although I suspect that there is an enemy in this hex. We're just trying to push my zone of control as far forward as possible before stopping. And this one is the unit which was cut off from supply. You can see that his supply was yellow, which means it wasn't really cut off from supply. He just didn't receive everything that he wanted. So his stockpile, you can see, is at 6 out of 12. That's okay. We'll give him one more turn at somewhat low supply. We'll get him back within the range of... Oh, good lord. Oh, that's not good. If I look at my history, it's a little funky, but the main thing we're looking at is this hex. Yeah, that right there. This is the jump. Boop. That means there's an enemy right here. Oh boy. Well, that's just all kinds of not good. What's danger in our town? It's up to 14. Danger increased by 7 due to presence of enemy near the city. Yep, and it's completely correct about that. There is definitely an enemy right near the city. So it's really all hands on deck at this point. We have to move everyone back, and we got to deal with this threat first. I'd love to... Oh, I actually took Zeitz, but, let's move this guy into... here? Wait. Yeah. This will block him. That'll block him. And this will block him. Okay. Oh, good lord. Turns out we have some cavalry riding some beasts that we're dealing with here. Is this game not awesome? Oh my gosh. So this is the new focus for us, is these, this is a, what do you call it? Like, this is a, they're not friendly. Let's just put it that way. And we're going to have to deal with these guys. I don't know how these guys are going to survive against an artillery bombardment. It's bipedal cavalry equipped with environmental suits. So I guess that's the people on them, not the bipeds themselves. Or I guess we're bipedal. Not the mounts themselves. Let's go to ranged attack. We have 0 points, so we can't actually do a ranged attack. Okay, that's fine. And your movement, I already moved you before I looked down here. And look at this, a fuel deposit, which is much closer. So this one has 30,000 fuel, that's a lot. And this one has 22,000, also a lot. We have plenty of fuel for the days to come. There's one advantage we would get from mining that immediately, and that is that we would be able to sell it. Not for very much money, because the traders would obviously be flooded in fuel after a certain amount of time. But it's a possibility. Or we could stockpile it, mothball the production after we got too much of it. Speaking of all that resources stuff, food is looking good and water is looking very good. So now at this point, we do want to sell water for pretty much as we can. This will be 120 credits. Okay, 121. Really cut our water down by a lot, but water is going up by so much that I don't think we really need it right now. Now, fuel is gaining by 25 in a turn. We could sell a little bit of that, but no, I don't think we... Okay, we could sell maybe 100 of it. And then metal. Do we want to sell metal? No. In fact, if anything, we want to buy metal. Food's actually going up. We could sell some food. It's not being sold for very much. We can get like 50 credits if we just sell 500 food. We have some extra machines, but those will all be used in time, and they're pretty expensive to buy back later. So, in fact, I'd almost like to buy machines at this low of a cost. But we only have 300 credits available, so I'm going to forego this pretty low price. Very, very, very low price. I mean, that's like 3 times lower than I expect. Okay, so then we can go to our one decision. We have a choice to either take enforcement points or autocracy points. I don't mind enforcement. It does have this benefit of tax bonus plus 50% if we get the first feat for having enforcement over 40. We have a chance for that, so let's go ahead and make him a commando. And I think that's all we want to do for this turn. We are gathering resources, but how many do we need to build a dome here? We're going to need 200 metal and 100 industrial points, which means I think it's fair for us to wait one turn. In fact, because our food situation is looking okay right now, I think I am going to move back to my earlier idea to build a bureaucratic point, to build the bureaucratic offices. In which case we need, same thing, 200 metal and 100 industrial points. So next turn I think we might even be able to get away with that. We have the industrial points. I think we can get away with building it this turn. We should have the metal needed in 2 turns. Okay, I'm going to do it. It's going to take 2 turns, which means we suffer from 1 turn of upkeep, but that seems fair to me. I saw some flickering of the stream into red, but looks like we've maintained it. So 10 minutes left. 10 minutes left in our stream, and that again is just the handoff point where Nucrium is going to start his own stream on this. I'll probably stick around for that for a little bit, because it's Nucrium. What a great guy. I'll post a link to my channel at the end of this, but I'll also post a link to his for him, because he has a lot of good content on his own channel as well. Okay, so let's see. How do we want to move with this? Maybe I want my Galactic Republic unit to buddy up with this unit to give him some good defensive capabilities. Or I can move him forward and just try to claim that ruins hex. What do we have? 9 rounds left. I don't know if we'll be able to get to the attack on Phoenix. We have some bipedal cavalry that we have to deal with instead. Yeah, probably this whole front is going to be lost in order to deal with other problems on the home front. And this guy is definitely needed back at home. In fact, one of the things we could do with our industrial points and metal is we do have enough recruits to raise a formation. Now, if I go to brigade, we can get 81% of a light infantry brigade, which is a lot of infantry. If I wanted, I could choose to invest in a machine gun infantry brigade instead, which just, we lose some of the infantry in favor of machine guns, which are better on the defensive. About comparable, I would say at least comparable on the attack. So you don't lose any offensive strength, but you incur some cost for increased defensive strength. Or the motorized version, which is very expensive, and we probably won't be doing that one. Okay, let's end the turn. We'll think about what to do with our points. Let's see. Oh yeah, Volano says that for reference, he's playing on a large map and it has 6 majors. 3 decisions available. Private economy points are increasing. Okay, we discovered power plant. We haven't researched the method of building one, but we now at least know about it. Okay, another stratagem. Soldier morale is a little bit low. So you can influence soldier morale, which is the heart down here, just by paying them more. They're very simple creatures. They like money. I think we'll move back this direction. I wanted to get that 1 hex. And then I think it's going to be just as fast for us to move back this direction to go home, which means we might be cut off from supply another turn. But alright, so here we go. Here's the Phoenix Shire people doing just as I said they are capable of doing. They are perfectly capable of just running right into our hex. And we can do the same thing to them in this goofy back and forth. I can just cut them off and then maybe do this. Starting zone of control here and here. Starting zone of control here and here. And then we block them. Okay, so just this is my way of saying, please get out of my land. Those units are probably needed more back on the foam front, but it looks like the enemy unit backed off a little bit, which is really good to see. Okay, this is actually very good news. And actually, this is doubly good news. The people who were hiding in here have actually come out. They've come out to play. So danger, how are we doing on danger? We probably increased a little bit, not quite by as much. Danger actually diminished. Yeah, so there was no danger that we saw in having a unit 3 hexes away. I would if I were in this town, but that's just me. And the fear level that we had, it looks like it's diminishing nicely. Robin Path wants portraits in schools. Our governor seems to be kicking up all kinds of proposals. Minus meritocracy in order to gain mind. Or plus meritocracy, but we gain fist. And we're not... This would actually... It's so much fist gain that we would actually... No. Yeah, it would cause our mind to decrease. Sounds kind of funny the way I say it, but I'm just talking about these profiles, right? No, it's our education board. I think I'm going to go with this one because the meritocracy, we already got the first tier bonus. We already got the accomplished envoys. So we don't... As long as this stays above 30, we'll retain that. Now we're close to getting the ability to unlock the next one, which is capable supervisors, which means more food. But we don't really need that. We're kind of good on food right now. So yeah, I'm going to go with this one. And you can also choose decisions, by the way. It's a perfectly viable strategy to choose decisions based on who it's impacting. First SHQ, Advisor, and Supreme Council. So if I wanted to buddy up to the Supreme Council, I might do this top decision. But for now, the impact is not too high. And now this is where the research versus discovery phase goes in. Uh-oh, screen static. Typosphere, you might have to reboot the stream. Hey, look, the good news is in 3 more minutes when Nocrium takes over, you'll have the pleasure of a professional streamer who does not have any issues, I assume, with his internet service provider. So I just want to hype that up. It's going to be interesting to see Nookrium play this. He's starting in just a few minutes. Yeah, Tiposphere, all good when you refreshed it. Thank you for reporting back on that. So we do have two options, whether we want to continue research on universities or to target that into power plants. Honestly, university is a great thing, so keep focusing on that. And our last decision is military advisors requested. This is an interaction with the Tirana Union. Oh, Tirana's the ones to our south. Oh, this is Tirana. This is a miner. This is no longer the Marauders. This is actually the miners. Wait, they gobbled up all that? Okay, so this is kind of an interesting thing. They want military advisors, and they're offering to pay us 320 for basically giving us autocracy points. Now, I think autocracy points are things you generally want to avoid, but in this case, we could use the money, and our autocracy is not high enough to be a problem, so we'll say yes. Okay, well, I'm going to end the turn, but I'm actually just going to see how the turn resolution goes and probably end up bringing the stream to a close, because I'd like to give Nook just a minute of free time to set up if he wants it. Without regional prices, it's very expensive for me, says Svodbold. I don't even know the release price of this. It's I love the game, so I got so much use out of Advanced Tactics Gold, and I expect I'm going to get so much use out of this one. I think the game is worth it. But it's hard to say that without knowing the exact price. Was it? I'm just guessing, what, like $40? 40? Maybe less, maybe more. Probably around 40 though. I think I saw somebody reporting that it was around 40. Yeah, $40. Okay, I honestly didn't know that was the value, but that's pretty much exactly what I would expect. So we got Technology Fascination, which is gonna, in theory, speed up our research. Which is a good thing. So this is a nice little first look on the release day. I hope that for people who are playing it, you were maybe able to play this alongside of me, and maybe it was a bit of a tutorial. I will have a full gameplay going up pretty soon. Let me just HTTP my my YouTube page, Tortuga Power. I think that should work. That's the site that I'm on. If you want to catch more of my stuff, Das Tactic and I just finished a multiplayer game of this. And Das Tactic has been playing this as well. Feel free to check out his channel. Just search Das Tactic on YouTube and you'll find him. He's also on streams on Twitch as well. So I'll hand over the torch to Nookrium. I hope that you're very excited. I'll try to leave a link to Nookrium's channel. I'll go look it up. So Nookrium, if you're being prepared or you're about to start the stream, I hand the baton over to you. I'll stick around for a little bit. Thanks for watching, everyone. And thanks for Slytherin for giving me this wonderful opportunity to play what is really, really, truly a wonderful game. And I look forward to the development. So, Nook, it's over